Oh, that's it. You press the go live button and you are broadcasting. This is like a I don't know about you guys, but when we were younger and they were talking about the future and they were talking about flying cars and all these cool or robots that do everything for you. That's not what I envisioned for the future. What I envisioned for the future was having the ability to create your own television stations. I sound like I'm joking, but I'm kind of partially being true. We used to when I was in my bedroom when I was a little kid, we used to have this speaker system that would there we had a microphone connect to it. I think it was like a really early karaoke type setup. But anyways, we used to legit think that outside people could hear it. Like we thought that people that were driving or local, heard what we were doing and we would, tell people to call in and it was, so I have early, I guess, aspirations or dreams of being able to, at the push of a button, be able to broadcast myself. Well, it's happened. We're in the future. This is it. And well, what do you guys think about it? How's 2020 going? Okay, I'm gonna stop. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. This is what I like to call the pre-show. This isn't the official start of the show. This isn't even a show. This is just a platform for me to meet people, for me to bring on people to talk about their story, especially people within the community of spasmodic dysphonia. Now, I know you're probably asking yourself, Shane, what is spasmodic dysphonia? Well, I'll get to that. But before we get to that, if anybody is watching this pre-show, I keep saying pre-show. This isn't a show. I've said since the beginning, I just want these to be conversations. I don't want this to be crunchy. I don't want it, I don't want this to be anything more than a conversation. So let's call this the pregame. This is the part of it where if you are watching before the official start of this, I encourage you, please, please, please share this on Facebook. The more people that see this, the more awareness that we can bring spasmodic dysphonia and the people within the community and all the amazing things that the people in the spasmodic dysphonia community are doing. So if you are watching this pre-game, pre-show, whatever you want to call it, click that share button on Facebook. We are also streaming on YouTube right now. So if you're watching on YouTube, tweet the link, get some people to watch it. We have an amazing, amazing special guest. I keep going to show terms because this kind of feels like a show, but I keep saying this isn't a show. It's just a conversation. I got a friend coming by here in a second, a virtual a friend. I haven't met her yet, but she seems to be very cool, and we're going to talk. And I want to hear everything about her. Her name is Beth Sweeney. She is a news anchor and she has spasmodic dysphonia. And that's an amazingly exciting story to me. And I can't wait to hear about it. But it's 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. Isn't time zones crazy? Um, thank you guys if you are watching. Thank you for tuning in. If you are watching, this is SD Sidekick. What is SD Sidekick? I know there are so many people out there asking that question. What is SD Sidekick? Because a lot of you may not even know what SD is. I'm sure you've heard the phrase sidekick. I hope so. I hope for your sake that you've heard the phrase sidekick before. SD Sidekick, it's a website I created. My name is Shane Hartline. Since the young age of 5, I've had spasmodic dysphonia. What is spasmodic dysphonia? Oh my gosh, that is such a good question because not a lot of people know about it. Not a lot of people know what spasmodic dysphonia is, but it's a neurological condition that affects your voice. It's very rare, and that's why I've created this website. I'm using SD Sidekick for a couple reasons. SD Sidekick is intended. It's still in the early phases, guys. So don't be too hard on me, okay? This is a very very early stages of what this I'm hoping will become down the line. But what it is right now, I want it to be a resource. I want it to be a community. There's been people, so many people once I kind of went public about having SD last year, I've had so many people come to me and message me and over and like, what did you do to get such a mild case of your condition? I've said it so many times. I'm so fortunate to have gotten my condition to such a mild case, but there are people that suffer. So I used to get a lot of people messaging me constantly, like, what have you used? What have you done? You know, and I realized that when, I had it at age 5 and when I was diagnosed at age 12, I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know where to get research. And now that there's so many places online where people can search and go, and Facebook and all these places, it can get kind of overwhelming and you don't know where to look. So I'm hoping SD Sidekick, the website, can turn into a resource, where a one-stop resource, ideally, of vitamins and books and all kinds of things, um, to aid people and potentially bring people relief with this condition. And through this, I'm meeting such great people with the condition, people that know people that live with people with the condition. That's what I want to do with this. Like, it's not a show, guys. I'm not going to call it a talk show. It's a conversation. And, that's all I ever wanted to be. And I don't want it to be, it doesn't need to be called a show. It's just a conversation. I'm bringing my friends on here virtually, and a new friend that I'm about to meet before your eyes. Let's bring her in, Beth Sweeney. Thanks for coming on.
Hey guys, how are ya? Can you
Well,
hear me
I'm
okay?
doing good. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Um, I have so much that like I want to talk to you about. I'm very excited to have you on. When you messaged me and you told me you were a news anchor with spasmodic dysphonia, I I don't want to say I got excited, but in a way I kind of did, because there's not many. I guess I could say it this way: there's not many of us in the entertainment business. So when I meet somebody, I met one other actor recently with it. And so when I kind of meet somebody that's in the entertainment business, it kind of gets me excited and gives me hope, because that's kind of what I want to do also with this platform is, just because you have this condition, I don't think that it should stop people from going after their dreams, whether their tool is, their voice. But okay, tell me about you. I'm really excited to hear about you. How did you, first of all, how did you get involved in being a news anchor?
Well, I started in college, obviously. I actually went to college to study theater and really wanted to get into acting. So I did a lot of that in the first couple of years and just started exploring other options. And I love storytelling, I love writing. And I took a journalism class one day and I was hooked. So that was probably my sophomore year of college. And from that very first class, I knew this is what I want to do with my life. So after graduation, I got a job at a cable station, and then I actually moved out to Los Angeles for a little bit and worked for what was then the WB channel, and then made my way to Indiana, and I've been here for almost 14 years.
Oh, cool.
So I was morning anchor for about 8 years, and then anchoring the evening news after that. So I've been a little bit all over the place. And like you, have a little bit more of a mild form of SD. I have adductor spasmodic dysphonia, which is more of the common form of SD. And so I can carry on a conversation like this with you pretty well for the most part. I mean, there are certain words that will crack, but when it is extremely noticeable is when I am on camera. And like you and I kind of messaged back and forth a little bit about, it's elevated with the stress and the anxiety, and it really has become a trigger for me. So it's been quite a challenge over the last few years, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, you do have such a mild case, but I do know that even with a mild case, trigger heightened greatly. I think we lost. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, even with such a mild case, like I'm very comfortable right now. I'm talking to somebody that I know understands what I'm going through. So that's kind of the most comfortable situation I can be in a conversation, whether, talking to my girlfriend or talking to a doctor, somebody I know that's like kind of on my side. But when I'm in a situation, it's that fear of judgment. It's that fear of all these things, loss of opportunity, spirals, your brain kind of spirals. But for me, yeah, when, it's funny because sometimes, like, I had a virtual for it's crazy to say this, a virtual callback audition yesterday. And I, it's funny, like, I was in the waiting room and I went through waves of nervous and comfortable and nervous and comfortable. And then when it happened, I was so comfortable. So it's funny, like, it's like a flip of a switch. Do you find, I mean, this is a whole separate conversation about nerves, but when you're in front of the camera, is it pretty consistent? Your nerves kick in?
Yes, absolutely. It's extremely noticeable. And I've started to form these habits because I anticipate certain words that I know I can't get out the way that I want them to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I anticipate that in a sentence, which only makes it worse. So then my voice cracks even more or spasms even more. And I just tell my friends, it's like adding fuel to a fire when there's that anxiety and that stress and that pressure. This started a few years ago for me, and I didn't know what it was until just last year when I got the diagnosis. I know there's no scientific cause. They've not been able to determine exactly why this happens, but a lot of people, it seems to happen to them when they have a very traumatic thing happen to them in their life or a stressful time, and I can pinpoint it exactly. So when I started noticing the changes when I was pregnant with my son, and right before that, I had just had a miscarriage and then had a surgery for a complication with an ovarian cyst. And it was just a very obviously traumatic time in my life. And I was in a very dark place. And then I got pregnant with my son, and I started just gradually noticing changes, more so on air than just in person, because that was, my comfort zone. And all of a sudden, I would just read a sentence, and then in the middle of the sentence, my voice would change. It would just crack in the middle, and I started sounding really strained. And I had no idea where it was coming from, chalked it up to pregnancy and acid reflux and all the things that go along with pregnancy, and thought, once I have this baby, everything will go back to normal. And I started noticing it even more when I was on maternity leave. Just little things like trying to read a book to my baby, and the words just came out differently. And then anytime I would project my voice, so if I had to, yell at my husband who was in another room, the voice would crack. And when I came back to work, it was exponentially different. I just couldn't make things work the way they did before. And that's when I knew that something was wrong, but I had no clue what it was. So, months and months of ear, nose, and throat doctors and speech therapists, which I'm sure you've done all the same, lots of speech therapy and vocal exercises and, stop caffeine, try acupuncture, a little bit of everything, and nothing seemed to be helping this. But for, a couple of years, I had never even heard of spasmodic dysphonia. It was never mentioned to me by any therapist that I'd seen at that point. And things got really bad. And emotionally, because this is my livelihood, it really became difficult for me to do my job. And while some of it I could conceal and I could try to hide in the way that I would tell a story, it was obvious that there was a problem. And emails started to flood in from viewers, some of them very kind. What's wrong? Are you sick? Do you have a cold? And then it just escalated. And I got, this is such an emotional condition to have, which is something my family has learned over the last, few years. But I remember last March, I was covering severe weather. And so on top of, being in the studio, we were dealing with tornado warnings, and I was trying to tell people about what was going on and storm damage that was happening. And so, of course, your nerves are elevated even more. And I just couldn't get the words out. And I remember that was kind of my breaking point. And it was followed by a really horrible, disgusting email from a viewer. That, coupled with the pressure of knowing that I couldn't perform the way I wanted to perform in my job, I had a breakdown right there. I went off the air. I walked into the hall. I was sobbing, and I went into my boss and I said, I can't do this right now. I have to take a break. I've got to figure out what this is. I can't be a good employee. I can't be happy with myself. I can't be a good mom, a good wife. Right now, I've just got to figure this out. So I took some time off, and I really went into a very dark place. And I'm sure you can relate, because sometimes, especially not knowing what it was at that point, I thought I was crazy. I thought, why is this doing this? I can have a conversation sitting next to someone that I'm comfortable with. But when I get in the studio, the cameras and the teleprompter and everything just become a trigger for me. Mm-hmm. So at that point, my husband said, we're not giving up. We've got to figure this out. And that's when I found the Vanderbilt Voice Center, which is just a couple hours from me in Nashville. And within the first 15 minutes of the appointment, the doctor said, you have spasmodic dysphonia. And it was like a weight had been lifted off of me. I didn't know what it was. I'd read about it and thought maybe this is something, but nobody had ever mentioned it to me. But just to have a diagnosis, or to have somebody look at me and say, I know exactly what this is. I hear you say these certain words, or the way that your voice catches, and then they explained what the vocal spasms were. And I just felt like, finally, somebody gets it and understands. And then, of course, it opened a whole new world of people that have the same thing that I had no idea even existed. And that has been, really enlightening for me. I mean, this is the first time I've ever talked about this other than to close friends and family. So this is a whole new thing for me, because it's been months of living with just shame and feeling self-doubt and self-hate at one point, because I just knew that what I had been good at for a very long time and loved, and my passion, was kind of being taken away from me. So it's been a really tough road, as I'm sure it is for everyone. And I'm so thankful that I have a mild case, and not, there are so many more people that have it so much worse. But it just, to be in the job that I'm in, just like you are, that's, it's been a tough road. And I'm getting to the other side of, starting to accept that and knowing that. And now the process, has started with, figuring out, what can I do to make this better? What kind of treatment's going to work for me?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for being as open. It's funny, we just met, but I feel such a emotional connection to you based on just how much I feel you. Like, I feel what you're going through. I never try to I don't like to compare, one person's struggle to another, but what I do know is, once let me try to explain my thoughts here. I oftentimes, I go to my girlfriend and I'm like, I just wish I knew what it felt like to speak effortlessly.
Yes.
Because I got this before. I have no memory of speaking effortlessly. Now I've got to a video and watch clips of me from 15, 20 years ago, I sound like a totally different person. And I attribute that, well, I've experimented with tons of things that I can get into, but like, I also attributed that to, I look at SD kind of like a muscle, in a sense that it's a new muscle you have to work towards the finish line of, in a sense that the more intimidating and triggering things that I've put myself in, situations that I've put myself into, the more I feel like I've opened up a bit. And the biggest thing and the hardest thing that I ever did with this was go public about it. And that was just a little over about a year and a half ago. Because a year ago today, I started shooting. Quick story, and I'll try to get this out because this is about you and not about me. But quick story, a year ago today, I started shooting a short film called Cookie that, through the SD community, I raised over $50,000 to produce. First film about somebody with SD. It's not out yet. It's, making the festival rounds, and then hopefully it will make, raise great awareness for SD. But before that, I had never gone public about having SD. I was so afraid to go public. And it sounds so silly because it's not a disease. We're not going to, nobody can get it from us. But I was so afraid that it would affect my career, that I would lose opportunity, that I've had one or two situations where I've been on a set where they've had to change lines, and that haunts me, but I've had many breakdowns. I've had many, just points where I feel like even with such a mild case, that I just get so frustrated because it's like, I just want to say this word, fluidly. And then what's even more frustrating is sometimes I can, and then other times I can't. And that's what the most frustrating thing about this condition is. And so with all that being said is, I've had a lifetime of this, of struggles and frustrations with it. But I think I'm coming to peace with, this is making this, it's a part of our story, and it's going to make us, if I didn't have this, I would probably be an asshole. I would probably be a totally different person, and I've had people tell me that. They're like, if you didn't have that, you wouldn't be the person you are today. And it's hard to make peace with that, but we have to with SD, because we have no choice.
Yeah, it's certainly humbling, that's for sure. I'm a perfectionist, and I want to always do my job 100%. And when you have no control anymore and you can't do it the way that you've always done it, it is such a change. And I look at other people that can just, even, fellow colleagues that can just so easily stand up and report the way that I used to be able to do it. And I think, gosh, I took that for granted when I had it. And now it's such a challenge. And I've always been a very outgoing person, obviously, to be in the business that we're in. You're like that typically. And when all of this started happening, I just wanted to make myself the smallest person in the room. And I didn't want anybody to look at me anymore. I didn't want any attention on me. I didn't want to talk about it. It's just the strangest feeling of shame. And I've had family members say, that breaks my heart that you feel that way, but that's the only way to describe it. And while you're right, it's, we're healthy otherwise. This is a condition. It's just something that we shouldn't be ashamed of. It just felt that way for me. And maybe a lot of it had to do with the job that I'm in, and that being such a big part of my life, and to just not be able to do it anymore was like the rug was pulled out from under me. So it's been a long year, and I have not wanted to talk about it. I try to avoid it. When people ask me about it, I don't want to respond to people's messages. I just try to avoid that conversation at all costs. And then I realize, what makes us vulnerable makes us real. And if I can talk about it and get it out there, I think it'll be healing for me and, maybe inspire somebody else.
That's it. That's it. And that's what I had to get to, is get over that hump of, I don't want to call it selfishness, but like I always told myself, when I get to some platform or some level of fame, that I'm going to fight for people with SD. But, why can't I just start that now? Why can't I,
Mhm.
you know, try to raise as much awareness and be open about it to raise awareness? And I think that, like, as hard as it is, I encourage you to, and I struggle with this on a daily basis, own it more,
Yeah.
as much as you can, because I feel like the more we can embrace, and I don't ever think I'll love it, but like, the more we can, it kind of like, I mean, it's like anything is, if you strangle something, if you hate something, it's going to only like fight back more and more. But I feel like if we can surround it with a little bit more love and compassion, as hard as that may be, it might ease
Mhm.
up a bit. And I know it has for me. Like, I felt like when I went public, like you said, when you found out you got SD, it was kind of like a little bit of a weight off your shoulders. I barely even remember when I got diagnosed, but like, when I opened up and went public about it, it it was so cathartic. Like, it was like, oh my God, I can stop being like fake now, in a
Mhm.
sense that, because
Totally.
I was like, not that I was being fake, but like, I, for years on a set or in a situation, or when somebody would ask me, like, on the rare occasion, not many people even do anymore. It was more of something that happened when I was in school. But in the rare occasion that it happens now, most people are like, "Oh, are you sick?" And I used to say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm just sick." And, now as hard as it is, I try to own it and just quickly explain it. And most people are very cool about it. But I wanted to pop this up because this was really cool. Bryant Mosby on Facebook says, tell Beth how lucky we are to have in Evansville to have her. Tall, bald-headed man also says, "Go Hoosiers." Thank you both for sharing your stories. Thanks for watching, Bryant.
Uh, that's kind. It took me, when you posted about this, to let people know this was coming up, and I kept hesitating on sharing because it's the first time for me to do it. Sorry.
No, I'm with you. Like, and that's what, like, it it's
So this morning, I woke up really early and I thought, okay, I need to share it too. It's time for me to let people know so that
Did you tell it on
even
air?
no, but
Oh,
I posted it on social media and
great.
I thought,
Awesome.
it's time for me to even let some of my friends that are just more of acquaintances don't even know what I'm going through. And I thought, oh, do I click the button to post it? Do I not post it? And I did. And it's been amazing just throughout the day today,
Mm,
people that have been so supportive and reaching out to me that because I have been so quiet about it and just tried to avoid it and not talk about it. And really that does so much more, harm than good. But I watched the stream the other night with Jim Bostock, and you
mhm.
were talking about something that resonated with me when even though you've had it since you were 5 years old, you mentioned something about someone asking you about it the other day or commenting on your
Like
voice.
4 months ago. Yep.
And although you try to, not care, it still hits you in a way
It
that makes you
can.
feel,
I
closed up
regress
again.
back to a 13-year-old kid. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm able to just quickly, like, yeah, I have this neurological condition. And when people usually hear that, if they're a decent freaking human being, they're gonna like be like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Like,
Yeah.
because the fact of the matter is, this is such a rare condition that, like, still so many people don't know about. When I was producing Cookie a year ago, daily, I had so many people messaging me, "I never knew about this. I never knew about this." And I'm like, that's why I'm doing it. Like,
Exactly.
so to go back, like, but it can be in the flip of a coin too, where this guy 4 months ago, I was outside of a comedy theater when I could go to a comedy. Um,
Yeah.
when I was outside of a comedy theater, this guy, we were about to go do a show together, and I started talking with him, and I could feel he had kind of, so started talking to him, and then he was just like, Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you? Like that aggressive. And I immediately just regressed to my 13-year-old self, and just my voice was horrible the rest of the show. When comedy and laughter is usually my comfort zone, it's usually the thing that like makes me feel the most comfortable in that moment. Because this is such a tricky neurological condition, it sent me way back. And I spiraled that night so hard,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it still happens.
It's the exact same. I can give the exact same example. So when I'm in front of the camera, and I mean, every time the lights come on and the teleprompter comes on, now that is my trigger. I'm like, am I going to be able to get through the show? Am I going to be able to read this sentence? And then I look down at my laptop. Okay, has anybody sent me an email? Is anybody criticizing me? Because it's, it has happened a few times. And if I look down and someone has sent me an email, even if it is just, what's wrong with your voice? I can tell something's different. Are you sick? It immediately sends me to a place that I can't get myself out of for the rest of that show. And then, yeah, it's the same kind of concept. And I think, because not a lot of people know about SD, and I'm still learning myself, I'm trying to educate friends and colleagues. And one thing that, a lot of my colleagues will say to me is, but you sound fine right now. You sound okay. We're just having this conversation. Why can't you do that on camera? And I have to explain, this is a neurological condition, and emotion is tied to this, and stress is tied to this, and that is the trigger. And it's so hard to explain, but it's just amazing, the flip of the switch for me. So I'm comfortable talking to you now, and then if you put a script in front of me right now, things would change completely. Yeah.
Have you on any broadcast publicly spoke about it?
No. I've never talked about it. I've replied to a few kind messages from concerned viewers, but I've never talked about it publicly, because it's just been really an emotional time for me, and I'm finally getting out of that. I remember one day when I was really in a dark place and I was going through a lot of therapy. My co-anchor at the time sent me a text, and he said, you know what, I hope you know that this does not define your worth. And when he said that, it was like, you're exactly right. But I was in such a dark place at the time, and I had such self-doubt and felt so bad about myself. I knew that deep down, but I couldn't see it, and I couldn't believe it at the time. But I'll never forget that. And now I can go back to that, and I know that. And I know that this doesn't define who I am. It's just something that happened, unfortunately, and something we have to live with, and hopefully we can find ways to improve it. I know you've talked before about trying a lot of different treatments. So far, I've done a few Botox injections. Not been so successful for me, and hasn't really worked for me. Acupuncture. I've also done, I don't know if you've ever experienced EMDR therapy, which is, I wrote it down so I wouldn't say it incorrectly, but it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So it's a therapy that's done by, a mental health expert. So somebody who may have gone through a traumatic experience, they do it a lot with soldiers who come back from war who may have PTSD, things like that. And it's kind of processing some of the traumas that you've been through.
Something about this. Is it where the muscles can start twitching, or?
Yeah, and you can actually it's a rapid eye kind of movement. You can also do it with your hands. So I did a little bit of that therapy, which was very helpful as far as trying to get through some of the emotion of it, and the stress that comes along with it when I start to feel it come on, and how to kind of control that in a way. So that was definitely helpful. But I do believe so much of it is mental and emotional, and just trying to move past that so that you can just be your natural self. But it's certainly a challenge to try to get there.
I think, so many thoughts. I think that we will see a cure for this. And I think that it will only happen with more and more awareness, being raised for this. Um, I think that, many different things work for many different people with this. And that's also what's the frustrating thing about this is like what one vitamin might work for somebody, only acupuncture works for the other person, different things work for different people. And that's why it also makes it very difficult to be like, hey, oh, you got SD, use this will like take away a lot of the things. But yeah, I have tried so many things. I've done acupuncture, vitamins, tried Botox, did not like it. I've done hypnotherapy, regression therapy, I went and worked with Jim Bostock in person in Australia, which was so cool. And the work he's doing, again, I want to let everybody know I'm not making a dime off of Jim or his program, but the work I think he's doing is really revolutionary and the step in the right direction of attacking it from the neurological standpoint. But I'm very hopeful, and we will see some kind of cure, and I'm hoping very soon. But I wanted to backtrack again, or backtrack a bit. You mentioned something that it does not define you, and I really want you to feel that, because it's taken me a really long time to start coming to peace with that, because it doesn't. And I think that even, and I've said this before on the broadcast, even though we have this thing that affects our voice, we can still tell our story. And I think that's so important that we do. And so with that, I wanted to tell you, and I think that only when you feel comfortable, I highly, highly encourage you to talk about it on air, to open up about it. Not only will that, raise awareness, but that will, I guarantee you, take another 20 pounds off your shoulder. And it's
Yeah.
going to be hard. It's going to be so tough. But because I had that on air story before I started my film, I had to go public about it. And that was one of the hardest things I ever did. But when I did, it was just like, oh man, that wasn't that bad. Like, and now, like, when I thought my career would be over, it's like, honestly, kind of opened up new doors, and it's been a really beautiful time. And I feel like my voice has gotten a lot better in that. I'm fearing less, because the more layers we peel off, the more of ourself we become. And I think that would be a really big layer. But I want to encourage you to, and also, like I said, do it when you're comfortable. But I think that, man, you would see such beautiful changes, because the thing you feared the most would then be over,
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's part of it, because I mean, even just reading scripts and trying to perform or storytell, it's so much of that is just laced with so much fear right now, because I don't know what's going to come out, and the fear of scrutiny and criticism. We always focus on the one really mean person out there that wants to pick at you versus all the wonderful people that are there. And it's hard to, get past that. And I always am fearful of, when is that next one coming, or when, so being able to kind of share it and be honest with people and say, hey, this is what this is. I'm working on it. I can't control it all the time, but this is part of who I am now. I do. Yeah, I agree.
Imagine how many people you would give hope
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess just hope is the right word. Like, being you going out there, like, and being that person that's like, this is what I have, being a news anchor with a neurological vocal condition. What a badass woman, How awesome is that? And such a role model, like
Mhm.
we were dealt this crappy card. We're trying to be in this business, where we are on these platforms and people are looking at us and our voice is our tool. What are we supposed to,
Right. And what kind of message, I realized was I sending to my little boy that, well, we just give up and we don't fight anymore. And that's not the message I want to send to him. And it's freeing to just talk about it, to just be here and have this conversation, which I've
Hell yeah.
never done before. And with somebody that understands, and in this community with hopefully people watching that have it too and get it. I remember when I first was diagnosed, and I would watch these testimonials on like Vanderbilt Voice Center's website, or people, just different websites with people that had spasmodic dysphonia. And I would just sit and sob because I got it. I knew exactly what they were going through. I couldn't go through a drive-through and order coffee without them asking me to repeat my order. And I couldn't say my last name for some reason. Is hard for me. Like, of course, with certain types of SD, certain vowel sounds or consonants are hard to get out, and having to repeat myself with that, or, I don't know. I mean, I go to a restaurant and there may be something that I want to order off the menu, but I don't feel like I can say the word and get it out. And so instead of having to go through the struggle and repeat myself, I'll just order something else. And so seeing those, I just thought it was crazy. And now that I see other people with those same stories and the people that have been brave enough to share, it really has made an impact on me. So now to be able to give that to somebody else, I hope is going to be, a good thing for me and a good thing for other people, because that's what it's all about.
I mean, I definitely think it. Look, Dale on Facebook. It is an emotional journey. Thank you for sharing. Jeremy Lewis, swoon dog. Proud of you for doing this.
That's one of my old production guys at the station.
Awesome.
That's my nickname. That's too funny. How sweet.
But this is a friend of mine, Sue Payne, that I met through Cookie. She has SD, and even after 3 years, I go through emotional ups and downs. It's incredibly frustrating. Yeah, it is. It's the most frustrating thing, when, and the hardest part is people that, talk effortlessly and, smoothly. They just, it's hard for them to understand,
Sure.
How has it been for your family? Like, was it hard for them to adjust, like your husband? How was it for him to adjust to this?
Well, it even took me a long time to really open up to him about it. We were talking about it this morning, knowing I was coming on, and he said, it took a while for you to just let your guard down and be honest and say, I need help here. Something's wrong and I can't fix it, and I've got to have help. I mean, I think that was the biggest. That was the biggest challenge for me, was trying to finally just admit there's a problem, and I can't do it on my own, and I've got to figure this out. I don't know why it's so different, at least it was for me, than say if I had some kind of other physical problem. I don't know, like, oh, I can go to the doctor and they're going to give me some medicine for this and then I'll be fine. And this was something you just can't fix. Yep. And and so that's how it felt for me. So it took a long time to open up to my husband. And then I was silent with my parents, with my sisters, with my best friend. I didn't talk about it for the longest time. They had no idea what kind of emotional turmoil I was putting myself through for a very long time. And then it got pretty rough for a while. And then my husband reached out to my family and my friends and said, look, she needs us. And that's how the support began. And I started to open up a little bit, but it's still a process and still something I'm trying to get through. And I think, from what other people have said that have SD, it's always going to be a process. So until they find a cure.
Exactly. or, you know, you get to a place where you kind of find like this, I don't know, I like to call it like a sweet spot of like, oh, right now in my life, I've found, you know, this meditation, and I'm working with the Jim Bostock's program, and I found a lot of things that are helping me live in this nice little sweet spot with it.
Mhm.
And you'll find that. And I highly encourage you, experiment with vitamins, experiment with vocal exercises, experiment with, you know, programs and all kinds of things, you know. Look at it as, you know, going into the gym. You know, we go to the gym for our body. We, you know, I found that I have to give a chunk of my time every day to working on this, whatever it is, whether it's my meditations or vocal exercises or whatever. You know, it's just a part of my daily regimen now. You know, and that
Yeah,
was a hard place to get to too. But
I think so too. You know, oh, that's so sweet. That's a colleague of mine. How precious.
thank you.
Um, I um, I didn't take that time in the beginning to really focus on it because I felt like I was trying things and the vocal exercises wouldn't work or this next thing wouldn't work, so I would just give up. And I threw myself into the gym physically, like working out all the time, because I knew that was something I could control. That was something that I knew I would see results from. So I threw all my energy into that for the longest time. And now I'm getting back to more of focusing on the mental side of SD and really trying to find ways to lessen the stress. And, you know, if I'm going to be in those situations, you know, when I'm on air, how to free myself from those feelings so that I can just speak like I am. And I think Bostock is so right about that. When I listen to him talk about it, it's exactly how I feel, and it makes so much sense.
I don't want to speak on behalf of probably everybody watching, but I want to say, I think if you share your story, and it, I am so, you know, moved. And it's funny, like, I've heard the same story from so many people,
Yeah.
but every time I hear it from each person, I'm moved again and again and again. And it's why I keep doing things like this. But I'm now that we're connected and we're friends now, and everybody watching is now your friend and has your back. We're gonna push you until you share your story. We're gonna not too aggressive, you know, just a gentle nudge in the direction of, hey, have you told the story on air yet? You've got a beautiful platform. It's obvious you've got amazing people supporting you. That
Yes.
being said, I know how hard it is to share your story. So when you're ready, like, I think it's going to be the biggest step in the right direction of relief, because I guarantee you there will be such a shift in those triggers. You know, there has been for me in auditions now. It's not drastic because I know the whole entertainment business doesn't know my story, but for you, what's awesome is that's your world. You go into that newsroom and those lights and the cameras and the people watching at home. That's your world. Everybody there seeing you is the world that you that doesn't know your story yet. So I think when you tell your story to those people, watch a shift. And I will be here to say I told you so.
I think you might be right. Now you're giving me a little bit of courage.
I just think that you know, we fear the worst, and then oftentimes it's the things that are never going to happen. And
Yeah.
I think you'd be very surprised how much support you will get, and also how much strength and hope, and just a symbol of, you know, I'm not, my brain is mush right now. You would be just such a role model, you know, for girls watching at home. There might be somebody watching, you know, that has it, you know, doesn't know they have it. And you could be the person that's like, oh, maybe I should go get this checked out. And then I found out I have it. You know, that's the way I
Yeah.
look at it, you know.
Yeah.
If we can help one person in any way, then that's what we're here for right now, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that, you know, regardless of what issue somebody out there might be having, it's just important to recognize your flaws. And, you know, we're all human and things happen
But like, let's
when you
change.
least expect them.
And that's what I want to start encouraging people with SD. Yes, our voices, we are stricken with this for some reason, because different. But I think we should change our vocabulary. Stop calling it a flaw. And I think that when we start shifting our focus in that, it's that whole philosophy I was talking about of like, let's give it more love. Let's stop hating it so much. And that's coming from somebody that up until the age of 30, I remember when I literally stopped saying I hate this about myself. I used to hate it about myself. And that's a lifetime of hating something about yourself that you have no control over. Like you said, it's like, if I am not happy about my weight, I know what I can do to change that. If I break my arm, I know what I can do to fix that. But with this, there's things that can alleviate it, but there's nothing that can fully help it. So what choice do we have? We have to we can choose to love it or hate it, and that's another hard step too, but I think it's all in the journey of the right direction, because it is a neurological thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And man, it's just such, there's so much to it, but I am so proud of you. Like, this being the first time sharing your story, I think that you're going to start feeling the onion, the peels come off a little bit. And I think you're going to start feeling very different, in a sense that, like, a little bit of the weight off the shoulders. This is the first step in that right direction, I think.
Right. Well, I'm really grateful to you, because for some reason, when I saw SD Sidekick come up, as I was scrolling through my social media feed one day, because I've done lots of searching for spasmodic dysphonia groups, and you popped up, and I started, watching a couple of the streams that you had done, and just listening to you talk resonated with me, and it made me feel this connection, like maybe I can talk about this. It's
yes,
okay.
You can.
So I thought, oh my gosh, I'm just going to send him a message. And then, the conversation started after that. And that's the bravest thing I've done in a really long time, because this has just been such a closed book for me. So I'm very grateful for this platform and for what you're doing and educating everybody about. And it's so important for people to understand this, especially family members and friends, that as much as you try to explain it to them, just to hear other people that have it and talk about it. It's so important, and I hope will make a difference.
I hope so too. And I think any awareness is good awareness,
Yes.
Anything that we can do to, like, get it out there. And I'm just loving, it was the first time I even spoke to somebody that had SD, was in the process of making that film that I made. And one of the producers, I tried to incorporate as many people with SD into the project as possible. One of the producers, she also got SD at like 5, which is, there's only like a handful of us, apparently. Like, it is very rare to get it that young. But her and I connected instantly. We're, like, still great friends. But it was surreal. I had this moment of, like, why are you the first person I'm speaking to that has it? So this has been also such a cool experience to just meet people. And though our stories are all the same, like, it's always just, it's always still so different. We all share the same struggle, but all our stories of getting it and how we got it, it's all different, because we all get it different ways. Like, a lot of it is like emotional based and through traumatic incidents. But for me, I had a beautiful childhood, and I got it when I was 5 at preschool choir. Like, we were going around doing notes, and when it got to me, I couldn't do it anymore, and I was just like, what the heck is going on? And so that's also a frustrating layer of it, is the people that get it don't know why they get it. And but at least we why you got it. And some people don't get that. They don't get and it adds to the frustration of it, so.
Oh, absolutely. And it affects so many aspects of your life and everyday life, for so many that have, much more severe cases than you and I do. Just being able to make a phone call
Uh,
and, do everyday things that we all take for granted. I will never take them for granted ever again after this. That's for sure.
yeah, I to be quite honest, I don't like making phone calls that much. I know it's a part of life that we have to do, but I really don't like it. I would much rather text, but it's not something I look forward to. But it's funny when I always say, if I didn't have SD, I would talk all the time. I would, but I do just try to do these things that I don't, and I look at it like the more I do them, I feel like maybe they become easier. But
Mhm.
I wanted to pop this up too before we wrap up here shortly. You're a beautiful soul on the inside and out. So proud of you for being brave and sharing your story. This is so many people are saying this, and you. This is such a brave thing you've done, but also like I just want to say you're here live. It didn't kill you. So go do it on air and watch the lights be less bright, watch the cameras be less intimidating. You're an amazing person, and I'm like I feel like I've known you my whole life. Like we share such a connection. All
Yes.
of us do with SD,
Yes.
and I've got your back. We've got your back, and I want to hear about after you continue to tell your story. Like I want to hear back from you soon.
You will. You will. This has been so great, and it's been so good to meet you. Yeah, I feel like we've known each other forever. This
Hell
has
yeah.
been wonderful for me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or the community of people on here. It's great people. But hope is not all lost, like just embrace it as hard as it is, embrace it, keep sharing your story as much as you can, own it, like I said, own it as much as possible, and like you'll start shifting in that right direction, and I believe that a cure is gonna happen without a shadow of a doubt,
Yeah,
but
I do too. I
thank you
do too.
so freaking much for being as brave as you were, and inspiring a lot of people watching. This is a hard thing that you did, and it's amazing.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate it. And so good to
Awesome.
meet you.
You too. We'll talk soon.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
What a amazing person, an amazing story. It's hard not to be touched by that. Like I said, it's I we hear the same stories, people with SD. We hear them over and over. It's all the same story, all the same frustrations, but it's hard not to still be affected every time you hear someone struggle in somebody's story because it's so real. And I deal with guilt a lot of, yeah, I could have cancer, I could have horrible things happening to me, but this is the struggle that I have right now, and this is the struggle that we people with SD have, and we have to lean more in the direction of accepting it. And what freaking choice do we have? This is such a frustrating thing, a frustrating card that we've been dealt with, but like we have two choices. We can either embrace it or we can continue to choke it. And we know that no pun intended, but a vocal condition where we're choking it, it doesn't work out too well. But man, so many. This is our highest viewed conversation yet, and just want to thank everybody for watching and tuning in and saying all the amazing things for Beth. And I really hope she does continue to share her story and inspire people. It's such a badass woman. So many people with SD are just some of the most badass and inspiring people that I've ever met. And that's why I continue to do this. I don't do things that I don't like. Anybody that knows that about me, but I enjoy this so much. One, I get to meet new people, which is really exciting, but just spreading the word and getting this story out there more and more. Um, Connie, your positivity is contagious. And I'm so glad that we know each other. And thank you for watching. But yeah, we'll do another one of these conversations in maybe like 2 weeks, something like that, But again, thank you all so much for watching. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Shane Hartline. I'm an actor with spasmodic dysphonia, and this is SD Sidekick. It's a resource. It's a community that I have made at sdsidekick.com, where people with list vitamins, a lot of books and resources and all kinds of things that are all kind of combined in one spot. And I also want it to be, like I said, a community for people to, connect. I know there's many Facebook groups of spasmodic dysphonia, but this is one, that another one, and then another one that I want to be kind of different, because we had these live streams, it's a different way to get the word out there, and it's so important for us to raise awareness. It absolutely is. So we have to continue doing it. We have to continue telling our story. If anybody watching wants to ever come on here and share your story, this is your show as much as it is. It's not a show. Why do I keep calling it a show? This is your thing as much as it is mine. So message me. You can contact me through the SD Sidekick pages, or my personal page, whichever. Shoot me a message if you want to come on here and share your story. Highly encourage it. It's very cathartic. You'll feel a weight come off your shoulder, and lean into that. So yeah, until next time, guys, be kind to yourself, and yeah, I'll see you next time.